Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so today I have something pretty cool, something unique, something a little different, something you definitely don't see very often, but today I have an Epiphone Explorer. But not only just any Epiphone Explorer, I have the Thunderhorse. For those of y'all that don't know what this is the Metalocalypse signature for Brendan Small. This was the first signature that they did for him back in the day. These came out in the really early 2000s. But yeah, I've definitely always wanted one of these even when they first came out. I was very fortunate to come across this on Reverb. I got it for a steal only because the previous owner basically robbed all of the hardware and for whatever reason had this thing refinished at some point, so the finish isn't that great. But I'm going to go ahead and play y'all some stuff, and then we'll dive more into the Thunderhorse. So yeah, there's a quick little demo for you. But yeah, this thing is pretty fucking rough, and that's the only reason why I got it for the price that I did. I got this knowing that it was going to be kind of a project. But it is a playable project nonetheless. It is kind of butt fucking ugly compared to an original. Yeah, whoever had this thing refinished, it's kind of mediocre. It's not the best, to be quite honest with you. Whoever robbed these hardware did not know what they were doing. Because, I mean, this tone pod is wallered out worse than a fucking Houston hooker, for one. I mean, look at that shit. Look at that shit. But yeah, you're probably not going to be able to pick up a lot of the finer details on the camera. So I'm really not going to point them out to you. But as you can see, just based on this silver burst finish, you can see that it is not original and not stock. So yeah, unfortunately, whoever had this thing molested the fuck out of it. But nonetheless, it is still a pretty cool guitar. Obviously, it still plays very well. I mean, it's solid mahogany for one, so you do get a lot. You do get a lot of nice bottom end and tone to it. That's one reason why I've always really liked Epiphones and LTDs, is they've got a lot of weight to them. They've got a lot of wood in them, which I prefer. One, I like the weight of a guitar, like a really heavy guitar, which is why I've always had a tendency to like Explorer bodies specifically. Not only do they look really cool, but they've got a fuck ton of wood in them to get a lot of nice, rich, warm tone, which lends itself pretty well for rhythm or a lot of bottom end. So whether you're a rhythm guitar player or you just like a guitar with a lot of fucking fat ass to it, an Explorer, is a pretty good option. But like I said, I've always been a really big fan of Epiphone and LTD. They're, of course, not paying me to say that by any fucking means or any stretch of the imagination. That's just my personal preference. I've always been kind of more of a metal guitar player, and back in the early 2000s, LTD and Epiphone was catering a lot to metal playing, like a lot of metal guitar players back in the day. Hence the thunderhorse, hence the Alexi 200 that I have, hence the LTD EX50 that I have. They were putting out a lot of badass shit back in the really early 2000s for metal guitar players. Not that they're not now, but especially me growing up in the really early 2000s, I grew up with a lot of those, early metal guitars back in the day that were aimed at metal playing. That was when a lot of early signature models were coming out for people, like Brendan Small, Alexi, obviously, Dan Jacobs of Atreyu, Sinister Gates of, Avenged Sevenfold. All of those were coming out in the very early 2000s and kind of got the ball rolling for the more modern metal guitars that we have now. But yeah, when this thing was new, it came with Gibson burst bucker pickups. And to be honest, I have no idea what is even in these. I can tell you that they are not original because once I popped the back off and looked at the soldering job and everything, I was like, oh, fuck, man, whoever did this only kind of half-assed knew what they were doing. But yeah, so like I said, none of the hardware is original on this thing. It does have a refinish, but it does still play pretty well. So let me get back to playing this thing for you for a minute, and, y'all can kind of be the judge of the Epiphone Thunderhorse. As y'all can tell, it still plays fairly well. It chugs really hard. And it, for what it was when I got it, it wasn't that bad, but I did buy it knowing that it was going to be an ongoing project. Obviously, I need to get this tone pot fixed. I really, really need to do a pickup swap in this thing and have the back rewiring cleaned up a lot, because if you saw the soldering, it would be quite embarrassing to show anybody, to say the least. But, and obviously it's having a hard time even doing a pickup selection change. So, there's that too. So it needs a bit of work, but for what it is a very nice project guitar. Like I said, I've always wanted one of these. They're one of the things that always kind of stuck out, but like I said, still plays really nice. It's got a lot of bottom end. It's very heavy, which I like. The neck feels pretty good. It lends itself well to a lot of I might be going on a limb and I probably might get roasted for this, but it lends itself well to a lot of like thrash rhythmy stuff. The neck is kind of big for lead playing, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that you can't do that. But I mean, if you are looking for especially if you're a really good rhythm guitar player for metal specifically, you really cannot go wrong with this thunderhorse. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty beautiful, even with the shitty ass finish that is on this. It still is fairly nice. It does have some rough spots on it. I don't know if you can see how well this finish is here, but I mean, it's pretty rough. You know, it wasn't done with the best intentions in mind. Like I said, it was pretty mediocre, and it needs a little love. But that's okay, because I'm going to love it, and I'm going to fucking play it because it's something I've always wanted. But yes, this is the Thunderhorse, the Epiphone, for those of y'all that don't know. And this is the Brendan Small signature from Metalocalypse back in the day. So yeah, hopefully for those of y'all that are fans of Metalocalypse, maybe y'all recognize a few of the riffs at the beginning of this video. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. You know, it's okay. Just needs a little love. It is an ongoing project. But I really hope y'all enjoyed this Epiphone Thunderhorse video, and if y'all have one of these or anything like that, you know, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think of them. Most people I've talked to that have played one of these absolutely fucking love these things. It's just really hard to find a nice example that isn't beat up, like doesn't have any blemishes, any paint missing, any dings, any wood missing. That is one downside to the Explorer, is when you go to find a lot of them secondhand, is they're gonna have a lot of chips and dings in them, because most people who aren't familiar with Explorers, you know, they don't realize when you move and do this and that, you know, these wings do extend out. These long ass headstocks stick out a lot further than you think they would, and they get beat the fuck up. So yeah, and another Epiphone Explorer body that I've always wanted is the Goth series, and I am having a very, 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 very hard time trying to find a Goth series Epiphone Explorer that isn't just beat the fuck up, that's not going to cost $1,000, because I'm not going to pay $1,000. Even if it is mint, that's still a ridiculous price, you know, for a Epiphone Explorer that was discontinued. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, these are going for $1,000. If you want a really, really, really nice example that isn't beat up and is all original, you're probably going to spend close to about anywhere from $1,000 to $1,300 on one of these bad boys, which is the only reason why I picked this one up for the price that I did. I am going to sit here and tell y'all that I only paid about $400 for this thing, so in a way it was kind of the bargain of the century, but at the same time it also needs about $400 worth of work. So take that with a grain of salt and for what it is. But yeah, this is the Epiphone Thunderhorse, and I really appreciate y'all guys watching and sticking around. Like I said, comment, like, subscribe if y'all have one of these. What do y'all think? What do y'all think of the Epiphone Goth Explorer if y'all do have one? I've always wanted one. I played them, and they're pretty fucking dope, but I want to know what y'all have to say about them. But until then, you know, y'all guys keep rocking out. Y'all shred. Do what y'all are gonna do. And you know, I really need to get the Alexi 200 broken out, so that way I can review that too. And once I get it taken in for a very proper setup, I will be breaking the Alexi 200 out for a review. But you know what? Since I'm talking about it, I'm going to go ahead and give you a sneak peek, because this isn't just any regular Alexi 200. It does have a bit of custom work to it, but I'm going to go ahead and show y'all. And obviously the Alexi 200 never came in this finish. This is a metallic purple that isn't showing up too well on the camera and is a lot more beautiful in person. But yes, this is metallic purple, and it does have pink pinstripes, which is pretty fucking sick. But yeah, you know, this will be the next review in my series. Obviously, you can see, you know, it needs a bit of work. When I got it on reverb, I took it out of the box, I set it up, tuned it, got the bridge leveled, played on it for about 2 minutes, and the very first whammy dive I did, I blew out the two high strings. So Yeah, it needs some love. It needs a proper setup. But yes, this Alexi 200 will be the very next thing that I review. So, sneak peek, guys. Alright, until then, keep shredding.